Bombers win, baby. Let's go. What a crazy game. I thought that you couldn't get any crazier from that comeback win by the Ticats in the East Final earlier today. And the Bombers, I don't know if they topped that, but holy crap, what an entertaining finish. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on Pig City Hockey, Pig City Football today, because I've been covering so much football. But nonetheless, if you're brand new to this channel, a fan of the CFL, a fan of any of these teams in the CFL, that awesome league that we have up here in Canada, definitely consider dropping a subscription. I'm going to start covering the CFL a lot more. If you already also like hockey content, definitely drop a subscription. I cover the Winnipeg Jets and other occasional teams from time to time, as well as the Manitoba Moose. So with all that being said, drop a sub if that interests you. Turn on notifications if you haven't already. And let's jump in to what was a crazy game and a really crappy game by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers today kind of deserved to win and kind of didn't. And I know that sounds crazy to say because, you know, they're the Bombers. They're the most dominant team in the CFL all season long. First place. Probably going to win the most outstanding MVP award for Caleros. All the other things, the Coach of the Year and O'Shea. So many winning variables and successful season variables in this team going into this matchup. And the Rough Riders, man, the turnovers this game for the Bombers. The Riders just got so lucky with turnovers, and for a while, I didn't know if the Bombers were going to be able to pull it out, because every time the Bombers got something going, they would turn the ball over. I believe that the Bombers had 5 turnovers in the first half of this game, which is just unacceptable from a team that's been so dominant at home this entire season. To give up 5 turnovers, if that's the correct number, because if it's more than that, it wouldn't surprise me, because it felt like it was a turnover almost every single play. But to have that many turnovers be a big prevalent in this game, I just was shocked about that. I could not believe how the Bombers were just being so, nonchalant with the ball and turning it over so much. And the Rough Riders really got into it. And Cody Fajardo, he had a pretty damn good game. Cody Fajardo was not good in that Calgary game, in my opinion. He was able to get the win because he was able to luck out. But when you throw 4 interceptions in a playoff game, that usually isn't good enough to win. In my opinion, the Riders got a little bit lucky in that double overtime. But nonetheless, they won, they got here. Let's see how it goes. And they made it close. Don't get me wrong. At the end of that first quarter, the tie score was 7-7 in points scoring. And then you go over to the second quarter. You have the Bombers score nothing. Saskatchewan gets 3. And then you have in the third quarter another 7 points scored by the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and then another 7 scored by the Bombers. And then you get into that fourth quarter. The fourth quarter is where the magic kind of happens. The Bombers get those 7 points on the board. The Roughriders don't get any. And that's what it came down to. A very close game. Luckily, we were able to finish it off. Not to mention the fact that in that fourth quarter, they were able to storm up that field on that final drive 3 times and convert on the third down play to get that first. The Bombers got really, really lucky there, but they ended up sealing the victory, and we're going back to Hamilton for a rematch with the Ticats from the last Grey Cup matchup where we won 2 years ago, obviously skipping over that COVID season that didn't happen last year, and I could not be happier. This team ended up showing up where they needed to, and we had some solid performances across the board on both teams. Look at, like I said, look at Cody Fajardo today. Had a great game. 19 for 27, 70% on his completions, 265 yards thrown, 1 touchdown pass, his longest pass of the game being a 57-yard bomb. You go over to Caleros, and Caleros had a fantastic game as well. 17 for 21, 81%, 229 yards thrown, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. That's where we kind of got lucky a little bit. But again, a couple of those interceptions weren't really on Caleros. They're more on the fact that they were just lucky bounces. For example, that Dembski one, not really, nothing, that's not Caleros' fault. It just slipped right out of his hands. He should have had that, so I don't count that against Zach Caleros in that game. But nonetheless, like I said with Fajardo in the Calgary game, usually when you turn the ball over that much, you're not going to win. So again, even though Caleros had a pretty good game effectively when he was able to throw the ball, he still had those interceptions, his longest throw of the game being 29 yards. And then you go over to the rushing side of this game, where William Powell on the Rider side of things had a pretty good game, 11 carries, 32 yards, an average of 2.9. Nothing fantastic compared to what we're going to get with the Bomber side, because hooey! The Bombers were running the ball today like no one's business. Then obviously Cody Fajardo on 6 attempts running the ball got 21 yards. He actually did okay when he needed to get out of the pocket today. He actually made a couple really good plays at the line of scrimmage, the line of play, or whatever the hell that's called. I always forget the name of it, but nonetheless, you know what I'm talking about. The blue line on TV, if you don't. He made some really good plays last minute to get the ball out instead of running and crossing the plane. Credit to where that credit's due. I thought he did a really good job today. Where Caleros is really good throwing on the run, I feel like Fajardo isn't as much, but he was still able to make some scramble plays that ended up working in the Riders' favor. Then you go over to the rushing side of things for the Bombers, and that's where it gets so damn interesting. Andrew Harris on 23 carries, his first game back, I believe, in over a month. 136 yards. 1 touchdown, his longest of the game being at 21 yards. Then you go over to Dembski, 3 carries, 22 yards, an average of 7.3, his longest being 15. Even Rasheed Bailey got a carry in and got an 8-yard rush there. Sean McGuire did pretty good as well, getting 8 yards for that close yardage quarterback that he is, and did really good for us on that rushing side of things. But Andrew Harris coming back, being the heart and soul of this team, one of the greatest running backs in the CFL, if not the greatest running back in the CFL, you could argue, even at his age, a Hall of Famer without any question, having himself a awesome welcome back to Winnipeg. He was fantastic tonight. Like I said, 23 carries, for 136 yards. An absolute phenomenal game for Andrew Harris. And now we're going to go over to the receiving side of things, where again, the Bombers were able to get so many really good performances out of all their crucial guys on the receiving end. When you go over to the Riders and their receiving core for this game, Dakila Williams had himself a pretty good night. He had 6 attempts thrown to him. He had 4 he caught, 108 yards, his longest of the game being a 67-yard catch. He had a really good night for them. The next other guy for the receiving end on Saskatchewan was Norman Powell with 47 yards on 3 catches, his longest being 22. He had a good game as well, like I said, running as well. He had 32 yards rushing and also had 47 yards receiving. So a good night for him, I guess, even though they didn't win, but you want to have that out of guys. And even though the Saskatchewan Roughriders had 1 guy over 100 yards receiving, you go over and look at the Bombers receiving end, and like I said, solid performances all around from all the crucial guys. Rasheed Bailey had 56 yards receiving tonight. Nick Dembski had 51. Kenny Lawler had 49, with one of his catches being a 26-yard bomb. Darvin Adams had a special night today, one of his best nights, I think. Darvin Adams had 42 yards today receiving. You go over to Drew Wolikarski. He had 22 yards receiving, right? Even Andrew Harris had 9 yards receiving today. They had so many guys performing well when they needed to in the receiving end of things. Like I said, Claros had himself a night, but when you really look down, what it comes down to is that the Bombers really got good, solid receiving when they needed it out of their entire big core, compared to where the Riders kind of drop off, mostly after, I would say, honestly, Braden Lennis. After him, even that with 40 yards, it kind of drops off to the 20s. So you didn't have that many great stellar performances on the Rough Riders end for receiving compared to the Bombers, but that does not change the fact that the Riders still put up a damn good fight, took advantage of opportunities when they got the turnover, and made it a very, very close game. What this game really comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, isn't one team being better than the other. I know that sounds weird because one team won, so obviously one team is theoretically better, but it really comes down to the Bombers being able to turn it on when they needed to. Saskatchewan had their opportunities. They were able to score off the turnovers when they were able to actually get those plays in the end zone and through the field goal. And when the Bombers finally got things going, when they finally got things settled, that's when kind of Saskatchewan started to fade away a little bit. And compare that to the East Finals game, where it's the same type of thing. You had the Argonauts being a juggernaut offensively and defensively. Even though they weren't getting a lot of touchdowns, they were still throwing the ball pretty well, moving the ball well, getting points, and keeping the Ticats shut out. Then you had that massive punt return by Paulie White, and after that punt return, everything kind of started to go downhill. Same type of thing in this game. Once you had the Bombers kind of get together a little bit, throw some plays, you had Claros making some good deep balls, that's kind of when things went sour for them. In the end, the Bombers end up winning a very, very close game by a score of 21-17. In the West Finals game that I thought they were going to dominate, it was much closer than it was, so I give credit to the Rough Riders. You guys put up a good fight this year. You got pretty lucky, I think, in that Calgary game, even though you fought well. You came in here, you tried your best, and honestly, I don't think you could ask for a more entertaining game if you're a Riders fan. I know it sucks to lose 2 back-to-back West Finals, especially to the same team, but at least you put up a good fight, and look on the bright side. At least you didn't doink it off the crossbar this time, right? I mean, off the crossbar. Not too much hockey I'm watching. Off the bar, right? If you did that, that would have been even worse, something like that happening, but you fought well, you had a really good final rush, 3 third down conversions in a row. That is very hard to do against a Bombers defense that has been one of the best in CFL in recent years, and you put up a good fight. At the end of the day, am I happy the Bombers won? Absolutely. Hopefully they'll have a chance to defend and get another one of these rings so I can buy one and add it to the awesome collection I have of CFL merch. But nonetheless, I had a great time watching this game. I can only imagine what it was like to be there live. Wish I could have been there. Nonetheless, though, I had a great time watching this game, even though they gave me a semi-heart attack in that first half. But I'd love to hear from your thoughts on this game down in the comment section below. What did you love? What did you hate? What do you think the Bombers need to do to be better against Hamilton? Who do you think is going to win? What are your thoughts on the Grey Cup on the East Final? Check out my video if you haven't already. I'll throw the link up in the top right corner right now. Also, make sure to go check out, like I shouted out in the last CFL video, our recent Prairie Puck Podcast CFL edition, episode 1, where we interviewed 3-time Grey Cup champion, Hall of Famer, and Winnipeg Ring of Honor inductee Chris Wallaby on the show. He was fantastic. It was a pleasure pleasure to have him on. So go listen to that. It's available on the Nolan Hockey Podcast channel as well as it is on our Spotify page. So if any of that interests you, I'll have all the links down in the description below, and it'll be up in the top right corner again right now as well for you to click on and enjoy. So with all that being said, peace, love, and positivity. Have a great rest of your day. Go Jets, go. They'll be starting right about starting in about an hour, going up against the Leafs in Blake Wheeler's 1,000th career game. So it'll be a busy day on the channel. We'll have 3 videos coming out talking about sports. So turn on notifications if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Have a great rest of your day, and go Bombers, go. Go Jets, go. Let's defend that ring, baby.